What's up, everybody? NFL Week 1 on Pub Sports Radio. I'm joined by my boy, Brady, a.k.a. DFS by the Numbers. Brady, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good outside of really needing a haircut bad. But, man, I'm looking forward to the start of the season and this slate as well. This slate should be so much fun and can't wait to break it down with you.
Yeah, man, watch this video and become $1 million richer. Hopefully it's one of us or somebody in the chat that's watching. Thank you for Pub Sports Radio for we're back here on week 1, man. It's been a while since I felt like I put together some NFL DFS lineups, but it felt pretty refreshing. How about you? Overall slate views for this one?
Yeah, I think the slate's very interesting. It's a slate where we got salaries so long ago that there's so much value opened up that we talked about it earlier. You can pretty much build any lineup you want. So that should be fun. But yeah, for me, I'm kind of looking at paying down a wide receiver. We'll talk about so many wide receiver options that have a ton of value. I'm looking at paying up at running back and potentially quarterback as well. But man, you take a look at the value on this slate and there is, probably some of the most value we've ever seen. It's weird.
Yeah, man. Week 1 is always like that. We get the prices a little bit too early. Chalk is pretty obvious. Let's get right into it then. Let's talk about the quarterback position. Up at the top tier of quarterback, you got your typical Patrick Mahomes leading off the way in this slate. No Lamar Jackson on this slate. So we got Mahomes, Murray, Josh Allen, and Russell Wilson. Those are all the quarterbacks priced above $7K. Which one is your favorite so far?
Yeah, of course, you can't really go wrong with Mahomes, right? Highest total on the slate against the Browns defense that I'm not too high on. But for me, I'm kind of looking at Kyler Murray. It's the second highest total on the slate, 52.5-point game total, where the Cardinals are going to be 3-point underdogs there. And he has the rushing yard upside, had 133 rushing attempts last year, solid stacking options. You have Hopkins and somebody we'll talk about who's 3K minimum, and Randall Moore as well. So for me, I do like Kyler Murray. It's between him and one other guy that I'm really debating on putting in my cash lineup, but I love the floor you get with the rushing yard upside, the rushing attempts, and a game that's projected to score very, very high. So for me, it's Murray up top, but I think Mahomes he's fine on any given week, especially this week, but I do like Murray with the rushing yard upside.
Yeah, I do like Mahomes a lot too, as always. It's Patrick Mahomes, but on a slate with so many cheap price tags, I kind of don't want to pay up for Mahomes at the top. I kind of want to allocate that salary at the running back position, but I'm with you on that. At the top tier, I really like Kyler Murray a lot. The Titans defense was so bad last year. They ranked 30th in pass defense and 16th in rush defense. And the Cardinals ran the second fastest offense in the league last year. So Kyler Murray, all the same sentiments as you, Brady. I do like Kyler Murray up at the top. In the mid-range, though, starting off the mid-range options, I really like Josh Allen. He's at $7,400. We'll talk more about him on Friday for stacks and stuff like that. Josh Allen gets a really good matchup against I shouldn't even say a really good matchup. You got to think about him as a running back. Buffalo are going to be 6-point favorites against the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they get inside the goal line, Josh Allen's going to definitely get the touches. And I always want to get that quarterback safety floor off the ground from him. So I think people are going to be awfully shocked of how much Buffalo is really going to throw the ball this year. I feel like Josh Allen in the top tier is going to make my player pool as well. Anybody else in the mid-range that you're looking at here?
I'm kind of with you on the Allen. Outside of that, for up top, I'm just looking at Murray, Mahomes, and then I like Allen. We'll talk about it on the stack show where Allen and Diggs is something that I'm very, very interested in. I'm also curious to see how high owned that stack is. I don't know how many people are going to go against Allen here, who on paper looks like it has a toughest matchup going against Pittsburgh, who was first against quarterbacks last year. But I think it's going to be a very high scoring game with a ton of potential. And yeah, I do like that Allen stack a lot. But yeah, anybody else in this range? Not really sticking out. I'm kind of just trying to look at Murray. I have a little bit of Allen, then a little bit of Mahomes as well.
I was looking at Aaron Rodgers when the week first started off, and then I kind of did some deeper research, and I think it's a better real-life edition that they're playing in Jacksonville than an actual daily fantasy slate. One thing that I didn't really like too much, Rodgers in dome games averages 8.3 yards per attempt, 64 touchdowns to a 12 interception ratio. So this game is going to be in Jacksonville. So if you see it on the slate, even though it says the Green Bay Packers are on the road, they're really not. I'll get some pieces in that game, but I kind of want to shy away from Aaron Rodgers. In the mid-range, I really like Jalen Hurts this week. I think that he's going to be the cash game quarterback that I'm going to run out this week. Jalen Hurts has a really safe rushing floor. Only Lamar Jackson had more rushing yards through his first 4 games of this season at the quarterback position than Jalen Hurts. He gets a pretty soft matchup against Atlanta. I think he has the safest floor. And then for FanDuel, I really like his FanDuel floor as well. I feel like he's a factory-made FanDuel quarterback. Anybody you like in the mid-range?
You took mine. I'm in love with Jalen Hurts this week. It's between him or Murray for cash for me. But yeah, I like Jalen Hurts just as much as you. You get that $1,200 savings off of Kyler Murray. Great matchup against Atlanta, who ranked second to last year against quarterbacks, rushing yard upside. And when he did start, he averaged 11.5 rushing attempts. So you get that nice floor. He's cheap, 6,400. And the only thing I don't like, especially in tournaments, is going to be the pairing options. I mean, you got Devontae Smith. You got Jalen Reagor. Nothing really sticks out there. But in terms of cash, I mean, cheap option, rushing yard upside. I really like Jalen Hurts, and at 6,400, there's a really good chance that he does make my cash lineup.
One thing that I thought that was pretty interesting in the mid-range as well, if Kyler Murray is going to be chalky in the high tier, I kind of like running Ryan Tannehill in GPPs. The Cardinals' defense was really bad last year, and Ryan Tannehill looked better through the first 2 months of the season than he did through the winter months. I feel like you get an ownership discount and kind of get different in some stacks this week. Anybody else that you like going down the mid-range, going into the cheaper options?
Yeah, so somebody that's going to be I think pretty low owned, it's going to be Matt Ryan, who is 6,500 going against Philadelphia on the other side of the Hurts, and just a great matchup against a poor Eagles passing defense. The Falcons threw a ton last year, and then just several stacking options with Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, and then another guy we'll talk about, and Kyle Pitts, who I really, really like this week. And just I think nobody's really going to have Matt Ryan. I think it said something like the Falcons threw the ball like 39.5 times on average per week last year. So we're going to get a lot of volume, and he's going to be very low owned. I wouldn't be shocked if he put up some solid numbers here. The only thing is he doesn't have much rushing yard upside, but if he scores a couple touchdowns, 6,500, it's not terrible.
I don't blame you. There's some quarterbacks in that same exact range that I kind of like a little bit more. I was looking at Trevor Lawrence at 6,200. He kind of made a couple of things work. Going down the player pool a little bit more, thought Joe Burrow on DraftKings at $5,700 was pretty interesting as well. And then if you're looking at the cheap options, Sam Darnold at 5K with how chalky Christian McCaffrey is going to be on this slate, I really like him as well. I like Jameis Winston from a price standpoint at $5,200, but I don't know if I'm going to get there because just the matchup alone kind of throws me off a little bit. Was there anybody that you're looking to punt at the quarterback position with?
Yeah, as ugly as it seems, I'm with you on the Sam Darnold. I just like the stacking options, very, very cheap option. Revenge game narrative as well. But yeah, one other guy I do want to point out, it's just very cheap option in Mac Jones. He's 4,400, so you really don't need much here at this price tag. And a solid stacking option in Jacoby Myers, the wide receiver 1 for the Patriots, who is only 5,100. And a solid matchup against Miami. So yeah, 4,400. Really, I mean, get a touchdown or two. That's huge at that price tag. So if I was to punt, it probably would be Mac Jones or Sam Darnold, but I think the majority of my lineups will be up top with Murray or Hurts.
Yeah, overall, I agree with you a lot. If I'm going down that deep, I would say Mac Jones is $4,400. I just don't know if I want to get there on that. I don't know how high the ceiling is, but he's definitely going to make a lot of things work. You get Mac Jones in there, man, with Jacoby Myers. You're only spending, 10% of your salary for week 1?
Yeah. Yep. Very, very cheap. So I'll have some lineups with. I'm not expecting too much, but really you don't need much at 4,400.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's really quarterback summed up pretty much. I mean, we kind of went through each pricing tier. Anything else you want to say about the quarterback position?
Nothing else. I mean, I'm looking at Murray up top. I'm looking at Hurts up top. I'm going down below, getting some Darnold, getting some Mac Jones, sprinkling some Burrow and Matt Ryan in there. Those probably my top 6.
Yeah, no doubt. For me personally, I really like Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts. There's going to be the 3 quarterbacks that I'm probably going to try to build a lot of my lineups around. But shouts to Southtown 101, Jeff Slaughter's bar in San Antonio. If you're in the San Antonio area, make sure you pull up on Southtown 101. Quick commercial break. I am with Brady, aka DFS by the number. Shouts to all the people in the chat. We got Uncle Weezy in there, Preston Ekdahl. We're gonna get there in a second. Preston, MMA locker room, and also KCOH MMA. Let's talk about the running back position here. Are you scared off by Christian McCaffrey going up against the Jets, or do you feel like there's enough salary on the slate to play him?
Yeah, I'm going to play Christian McCaffrey with a ton of confidence here. We talked about it earlier how there's so much value on this slate that you can pretty much play everyone, and it's going to be Christian McCaffrey for me. He did average 30.1 DraftKings points last year. He did not play a lot of games, obviously, but he has that elite pass catching upside, and basically you get a wide receiver and a running back into one player. A solid matchup against the Jets at home, and just probably the highest ceiling on the slate. I mean, he's going to get a ton of reception upside, a ton of carries, 30 touch upside for Christian McCaffrey, touchdown upside. It's really hard to get away from McCaffrey in cash for me. And then even like tournaments, I'm going to have a lot of McCaffrey as well. It's just really hard to get away from that upside. Of course, coming off of injury, there are some concerns, but last year, week 1, McCaffrey was actually 10K. He's 9,500 right now. I think that price is only going to go up week after week if we do see the same old McCaffrey we saw last year and the year before. So I do like McCaffrey quite a bit, and just plugging him in cash.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. McCaffrey is the first cash option that I added into my lineup as well. And CMC, man, this is just such a good matchup. And I feel like $9,500 is a little bit too cheap for Christian McCaffrey on DraftKings. I think he'll be around that FanDuel price tag at $10,400 in a couple of weeks, but I'm still playing him over there on FanDuel as well. I feel like Dalvin Cook may go under the radar this week. I think he draws the best matchup at the top tier against the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals allowed 5.34 yards per carry, which was 31st last season. Dalvin Cook definitely going to be in my player pool as well. But I think the guy that really talk about in this top tier option, Brady, is going to be shouts to my boy Preston. Alvin Kamara, man, he's grading out as the best point per dollar play on DraftKings and FanDuel at the running back position for me in the top tier. Alvin Kamara, $1,800 cheaper than Christian McCaffrey on FanDuel. Makes it too easy to play, even though they're playing against Green Bay, and that's not the best of matchups in the world. Just look at McCaffrey splits with Michael Thomas on and off the field. He averages about 30 DK points with Michael Thomas off the field. Just way too safe of a floor to ignore. Anybody else in this top tier that you're looking at?
For me, we actually nailed him. I'm looking at McCaffrey, I'm looking at Alvin Kamara, and I'm looking at Dalvin Cook. But yeah, I'm with you. Alvin Kamara, oh my goodness. You get a $900 savings off of McCaffrey. Not that it matters because I'm going to have both of them in my lineup. But yeah, I like Kamara quite a bit. I like that there's no Michael Thomas. She'll get a lot of pass catching opportunities, 88 receptions last year. And basically, I mean, the Saints don't really have many people to throw to, right? We'll talk about somebody wide receiver later in the video, but I think Kamara is going to get a lot of targets, a lot of receptions. 8,600. I love Alvin Kamara this week and Christian McCaffrey, and most of my lineups are going to have them, so I don't really like anybody else in this range, to be honest.
In GPPs, I think it's a little bit better on FanDuel, considering it's a half a point PPR and the touchdowns are a little bit more considered than the reception floor that you need on DraftKings. I really like Derrick Henry also as well, highest point total on the board this week. And the Cardinals defense allowed 4.39 yards per carry last year, even though that was 17th in the league. Was kind of middle of the pack. I feel like Derrick Henry sets up pretty easy with the stacks that you were talking about earlier with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore. You can run it back with Derrick Henry on the other side and be along your way. I feel like he definitely presents a lot of scoring opportunities in this matchup against the Arizona Cardinals at home.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, yeah, more of a FanDuel play if I was to play FanDuel. I just don't like the lack of pass catching upside for Derrick Henry when you have guys like McCaffrey that has 10 reception upside. You have guys like Kamara who has 10 reception upside where, Henry, he could do very good, but he just doesn't have that same floor as the other guys up top. But yeah, Henry's always going to be a good play no matter who he plays each and every week.
Who are you looking at in the bottom 7K range, in the 6K range, kind of like the mid-tier at the running back position on DraftKings this week?
Yeah, I really like Joe Mixon going against Minnesota here. You got a 47-point game total where the Bengals are going to be 3.5-point dogs. And I just think he's very underpriced. No Gio Bernard, of course, and just very cheap for the amount of volume he's going to get. Last year, he averaged about 20 touches per game. You give me 20 touches at 6,200, I'll be very, very happy with that. But yeah, Joe Mixon really did stick out. I think the offense is going to be much improved this year. And Mixon's pretty solid. I know he hasn't been the best in the past year, but I do think the offense is going to be much improved, and I think he's going to get opportunities, and opportunities is what I'm looking for, especially at 6,200. So Mixon, yeah, definitely stuck out to me at that price.
I don't blame you, but a guy that we talked about this a little bit earlier about how the pricing was a little bit jacked up due to injuries. Travis Etienne actually got hurt in the preseason, so I feel like James Robinson's price tag at $6,400, a little bit more appealing on FanDuel at $5,900. Still in the mid-range, though. I feel like James Robinson is going to be the guy that I'm going to be the most overweight on as a whole this slate. I feel like he's going to absolutely eat against this porous Houston defense, man. This defense was absolutely horrendous last year. They averaged 5.5 yards per carry last season, which ranked 32nd in the league last year. James Robinson should absolutely smash in this spot. I kind of like Joe Mixon as well, but I'll be allocating my salary a little bit more to James Robinson. Anybody that you guys like in the chat, make sure you put it in there as well. And going down a little bit more, Brady, who else do you like in this running back tier?
Yeah, that James Robinson call is awesome. I mean, you can't really ask for a better matchup here, and I like that Etienne did get injured as well because it's going to give Robinson a ton of opportunities. I actually drafted Robinson in my season long, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, love that call, 6,400 there. Going down a little bit more, it's not the best matchup in the world, but I think Antonio Gibson just way too cheap at 5,900. He has 15 to 20 touch upside at home, some solid touchdown upside as well. Again, the matchup's not the best against the Chargers, 45-point game total, where they are 1-point dogs. But yeah, the price tag for the upside of Gibson just seems a little bit too low, 5,900. But again, I'd rather much go up and get a Mixon or get a Robinson. But Gibson is another guy that stuck out in terms of some value on the slate.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I was looking at Gibson a little bit as well. Another running back in that same exact range that I ended up gravitating a little bit more to. I think he's going to go really under the radar for GPPs. It sets up for a good matchup, man. It was definitely a matchup that we picked up on last year, was attacking the Detroit Lions rushing defense. I don't think there's going to be any ownership coming towards Raheem Mostert too much. And at $5,800 and $6,100 on FanDuel, I feel like Raheem Mostert could be a good GPP play on this slate. I'm not the highest on how talented he's going to be for the full season, but if you look at his stats as a bell cow through the first 3 weeks of the season last year, he had really good Draftkings numbers, and this is a pretty cheap price tag considering he was $5,800 week 1 last year, and he had 25 fantasy points against Arizona, and he's coming in basically into the same exact situation as he did last year, maybe even better with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance back there.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about Mostert because, yeah, he's going to have a ton of tournament upside here. I know he's sharing carries with Sermon, but he has that really big play upside. I guess the one thing you got to worry about for Mostert, pretty much in season long, though, is going to be the injuries. This guy gets hurt so much. He's made out of glass, but when he does, play, he's very good. So, yeah, against the Detroit Lions, who were 31st against running backs last year, Mostert definitely did stick out. One I want to kind of throw to you, which is going to be very low owned. I don't love it, but Kareem Hunt, 5,500. It's the highest total on the slate, 54.5 points. Total there in a game where the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, are 6.5-point favorites. The Browns will be trailing. I think the Browns will be throwing, and who's going to be on the field when they are throwing? Kareem Hunt. I can see some reception upside, touchdown upside in a game that's projected to score well. I don't think anybody's going to own him at all. Just somebody with some upside in a game script where the Browns should be trailing here. But yeah, other than that, I think somebody in the chat mentioned Mike Davis, starting running back for Atlanta. I think that's fine as well. 5,400, very cheap. Pretty much that's about it that sticks out to me, though.
I'm definitely with you on KCOH with the Mike Davis one. Mike Davis at $5,400 on DraftKings this week. Maybe people don't know about how valuable that Falcons running back situation was last year, but up until their week 10 bye last year, there was only 3 running backs in the league that got more touches than Todd Gurley. It's just that Todd Gurley ended up being fucking dust last year. But if you look at Mike Davis last year when he started for Christian McCaffrey, 3.9 yards per carry last season with 373 yards in the receiving game. The Eagles defense gave up 125.8 8 rushing yards per game last year, which ranked number 22 in the NFL last year. I really like Mike Davis at this price tag, $5,400 on DK and $6,200 on Fanduel as well. I feel like he sets up for a lot of good stacks this week. And the only other guy that I was really looking at the bottom of that price range was Damian Harris. I saw somebody say that in the chat. $5,200 is a pretty good price tag on Damian Harris. I do have him in one of my GPP teams, but I don't know if I'll be going overweight on him. But it could be a good matchup for him at $5,200.
Yeah, I think it's fine. One more I'll throw out. Javonte Williams, he has 4,000 minimum price on DraftKings. I mean, he's going to be splitting carries, obviously, but 4K, you don't really need much. If I was to, go down, which this week I'm probably going to, stay up and get my Camaras, get my Christian McCaffreys. But if I was to punt down, I think Williams at 4,000 could be something to look at in tournaments. Definitely will not go through for cash, but just very cheap guy down there. That's about all that sticks out for me.
Yeah, also down there is kind of a season-long play. I don't know if it's going to hit in week 1, but it's a chalky game. Chase Edmonds, $4,600. Shouts to Big Show. He said that to me. Did that price tag stick out to me? He asked me that earlier today. And I said, $4,600, if it was during the bye weeks of the season, yeah, I'd probably gravitate towards it a little bit more. But week 1, I really want to pay up at running back this week.
Yep, with you. I mean, I'm going to go up and get McCaffrey, Kamara, Mixon, Cook, all those guys. But yeah, I think we talked about some good value down at running back. Going through it, there's a ton of plays that stick out at running back. Can't wait till we talk about wide receiver because there's even more.
Yeah, we're about to get into wide receiver in just a sec. Shout outs to sponsor of the show, Manscaped. Make sure you get that Lawnmower 4.0. I'm here with my main man, Brady, breaking down this week 1 NFL DFS slate. We are at the wide receiver position now. Just got to write down this timestamp, 3:37. At the top range here at the wide receiver position, who are you looking at? There's a lot of good options at the top range. Which one do you want to gravitate towards the most?
Yeah, I mean, Devontae Adams is going to be in play every single week, no matter the matchup. Tyreek Hill, same thing, going to be in play every single week, especially this week, 54.5 point game total. But the guy that I'm kind of liking the most, cheaper than both those guys, is going to be Calvin Ridley. So, of course, there's no more Julio Jones. Atlanta does throw the ball a ton. Like I mentioned, they threw the ball on average about 39.5 times last year. And Ridley should get a ton of targets against a pretty bad Philadelphia passing defense, 48-point game total, and a game where they had 3-point favorites. I think Ridley has a ton of upside, not only in this game, but for season long as well. I think he's going to be an absolute stud this year. So yeah, Ridley's somebody I'm definitely looking at. I think he's a ton of upside. We talked about Matt Ryan earlier as a potential quarterback option. I think pairing those two up is a solid look, and we'll talk about that more on the stack show. But yeah, I'm really high on Calvin Ridley in this game here.
Yeah, I was kind of high on Calvin Ridley considering the matchup on paper, and then doing some more research about the Eagles defensive coordinator. I feel like the one thing that we're going to see about the Eagles this year is they're going to stop playing a lot of man-to-man and run a little bit more cover 2. And the cover 2 kind of goes towards the underneath routes. So I'm kind of more interested of the Atlanta underneath route guys around that on that team more than paying up for Calvin Ridley. I think I'm going to run some hurt stacks, but I think I want to leave Calvin Ridley out. The wide receiver that I was really looking up at the top tier is actually the wide receiver that's projected for the most receiving yards this year. I really like Stephon Diggs in this top range, $7,600 for Stephon Diggs overall in cash games and GPPs. Feels a little bit too cheap here. Maybe some people shy away from that Pittsburgh matchup. Not the best matchup, but if you look at what he did last year against Pittsburgh, he had 10 catches off of 14 targets for 130 receiving yards and a touchdown and had 32 DK points. So I'm not really too worried about the matchup. I feel like in the top range, I'm going to play Stephon Diggs the most. I don't mind Devontae Adams also as well. And I feel like Tyreek Hill might go overlooked at that top range.
Yeah, I like that Diggs call. And you mentioned not the best matchup in the world, but there are some guys that are just matchup proof. McCaffrey, Devontae Adams, and Stephon Diggs is definitely one of them. So I do like the Diggs call as well. Yeah, I think Hill can definitely go under owned, which is weird because he's going to have a lot of upside against the Cleveland passing defense that I don't rate all that highly. Highest total on the slate. But yeah, for me, I'm looking at Adams, looking at Hill, I'm looking at Ridley. I really like Ridley this week. And then also, yeah, I'm with you at Diggs. That pretty much all that sticks out up in the top. I think Hopkins is fine as well, paired with Kyler Murray. I think that's solid, but yeah, that's about it for me in the top range. Like I said earlier, for receiver, I'm looking to pay down because, man, there are a ton of options down low that I do like quite a bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to the value wide receivers. I feel like that's a freaking segment within its segment of itself. In the mid range, though, one guy that I was looking at was
Right there.
Deontay, wide receiver 4. Yeah, and now can you hear me?
Yep, you're back.
All right, that was weird for a second. One guy I was looking at in the mid-range was Deontay Johnson, wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like he has a really good reception floor. Price tag 6,600 on Fanduel. Fits in a lot of stacks as well. Maybe not the I would say the highest upside ceiling play of the slate, but he'll definitely give you a safe floor in the mid-range. Was there any other wide receivers you're looking at in the mid-range?
Yeah, for wide receiver, I'm kind of looking up top and then down below in the bottom. Really, the only guy that kind of stuck out to me in the mid range is going to be Brandon Ayuk, and even then, like I'm not overly excited about it, but there is a 44.5 point total there against a terrible Detroit defense. Great matchup. The Lions did rank 31st last year versus wide receivers. Solid upside at the price and should see a decent amount of targets, 5,700. I'm very high on Ayuk. Don't love it, but he did average 15.9 DraftKings points last year. He had multiple 20-point games, so I think he's fine. Great matchup against Detroit. So other than that, like in the mid-range, nothing much sticks out. You talked about Pittsburgh. For me, it's just hard because, Deontay Johnson's there, Juju Smith-Schuster's there, Chase Claypool's there. Out of the three, of course, I do like Johnson, but it's just kind of hard for me to like zone in on one of those guys. I think all three of them do have upside, but you're right. Deontay Johnson, if I had to pick one, it would be him.
Yeah, in the mid-range, I was also looking at Robbie Anderson revenge game against the New York Jets. Robbie Anderson may not be the safest guy ever, but he definitely gives you some GPP upside and touchdown upside. You could run definitely a Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson revenge narrative stack and definitely not spend a lot of your salary this week. Also, Chase Claypool, you said earlier, Chase Claypool, touchdown target. Love me some Chase Claypool on this slate. But let's get into the cheap options on this slate. I feel like one of the biggest things about DraftKings is just the pricing is just made a little bit too early. It's made in like week 3 or week 4 preseason to fill up the contest. There's so many cheap wide receivers on the slate. What is your favorite cheap wide receiver? What's your list of cheap wide receivers? Because I've heard so many different lists at the cheap wide receiver range this week.
My favorite, well, that's going to be hard because I do like a lot of them. Yeah, I'm going to go with Marquez Callaway here. He is 3,400 going against the Packers. Very high game total, 50 points, which I believe that is either third or fourth highest on the slate in a game where they're actually 3.5 point underdogs. So I do think they're going to be trailing. And like I mentioned earlier, the Saints, who are they going to throw to, right? Like they're going to throw to Kamara, obviously, but who else? It's going to be Marquez Callaway, and he's literally 3,400. The number one wide receiver with Thomas out here should get a ton of opportunities. The matchup is not great. It's a very tough matchup, but at 3,400, with the amount of action, the amount of targets he should get, I really like Callaway 3,400. I think it's just very cheap, and you really don't need much at this price tag, and it allows you to go up and get McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook, just guys up there. So if I had to pick a favorite, it probably would be Callaway there.
Yeah, definitely don't blame you on that. The Callaway one. I don't really care about the Jair Alexander matchup. I know it's not the best matchup in the world. Jair Alexander usually likes to shadow his number one wide receiver that's across from him. But I feel like Callaway, regardless, is just going to have to eat in this game. And at $3,400, you're really not paying for a big price tag. Around that same exact price tag, also as well, Marvin Jones, wide receiver of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he's going to come in a little bit too chalky for my liking, but he'll definitely make my player pool. James Robson's going going to be chalky too. So maybe running Trevor Lawrence with Marvin Jones or Laviska Shenault might be a way to get different. One wide receiver I was looking at some of the rookie wide receivers. Devontae Smith, wide receiver of the Eagles, $4,500, Heisman Trophy winner. I feel like it's a little bit too cheap of a price tag. I think he'll be in the mid 5K range in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to try to get on top of that early. Falcons defense isn't a defense that I'm really too scared about either. If there's one wide receiver that I do feel safe stacking Jalen Hurts with, it will be Devontae Smith this week. Any other wide receivers you're looking at in the cheap range?
Yeah, Devontae Smith is definitely somebody I'm going to be stacking Hurts with for sure. Somebody in the chat brought it up, Benjamin. T. Higgins, this sticks out to me from just a price standpoint. Not just T. Higgins, but I think all the Bengals receivers in general is way too cheap here. And you're getting T. Higgins at 4,700, which really makes no sense to me. Good matchup against Minnesota, 47-point game total in a game where they're projected to be trailing 3.5-point underdogs and should see a ton of targets. And Cincinnati throws the ball a ton. So, yeah, I mean, T. Higgins, just the price tag is just really, really intriguing to me. Really don't understand the price tag, to be honest. He did average the most Draftkings points out of all the Bengals receivers last year. We're getting him at a very cheap price tag. Yeah, I mean, I like T. Higgins quite a bit.
Yeah, shouts to the chat. We got Blake Atwood in here. He said Callaway, Edmonds, or Gaskin as your flex. Can't decide. I would say Myles Gaskin has the safest floor. He can get there in the receiving game if that's a PPR league. And shouts to Noli Knowles as well. He said, what up, Billy? Other cheap wide receivers I was looking at on this slate, Michael Pittman with T.Y. Hilton being on the IR for the first couple weeks of the season, I guess, the first 7 weeks. Michael Pittman Jr., sophomore year for him. Even though he might not have the best chemistry with Carson Wentz, who didn't really play in the preseason, the fact that Wentz is in there, I do like his price tag at $4,100. And then another one that kind of caught my eye as well, Jameson Crowder is going to not play this week. I think he has COVID. So a lot of people are kind of looking at Corey Davis, but me personally, I'm going to go a little bit deeper at bare minimum price. Elijah Moore, rookie wide receiver, he's going to be running a lot out of the slot, so he's going to be running that Jameson Crowder underneath role, and I kind of like targeting the slot wide receiver, whoever the fuck the slot wide receiver is in the Adams-Gase offense. I don't care if it's for 1 week, 1 day, whoever it is, I want them on my team, and I actually like little Elijah Moore as a player too, so it kind of makes me want to play him a little bit more. And Gabriel Davis, if you're looking for Josh Allen stacks, and Rondale Moore, we talked about that earlier with the Kyler Murray stack at bare minimum price, also caught my eye as well.
Yeah, I agree with all of those. I like Pittman. I like Rondale Moore. I really do like Moore in terms of potentially stacking with Kyler Murray. Makes for a very cheap stack there, slot receiver in a game that they're projected to be trailing in. High total, 52.5 points. So yeah, so Rondale Moore, somebody I'm really looking at. In terms of other, sneaky play, I think we touched on the ones that are going to have some ownership. In terms of sneaky plays, I think Terrence Marshall Jr. On Carolina going against the Jets here. I have a 45-point total where they're going to be 5.5-point favorites. He's minimum price as well, $3,000. Should see a ton of work in the slot. And again, you don't need much in this $3,000 price range. Very, very solid matchup against the Jaguars D. I think he can have some success. He's somebody that actually did pick up on the waiver wires in season long. I think Terrence Marshall could, be decent this year at 3K. You don't really need much. I think you can get some decent amount of targets.
Yeah, I definitely think Terrence Marshall, I might not play him week 1, but I think there will be 2 to 3 weeks this season, even though he's buried a little bit on that wide receiver depth chart. He's going to definitely score 20 or more fantasy points in about 3 weeks this year, and he's going to win you a lot of money. You just got to make sure you pick out that week. Let's go over to the tight end position before we head on out of here. We're about 34 minutes into the video. We're actually running on pretty good time, better than I thought we were going to do. In the high tier, I feel like it's pretty obvious. Travis Kelce at the top against the Cleveland Browns flow chart tight end defense, which is absolutely horrendous. Are you going to get to Travis Kelce in your lineups this week, or are you going to get more in the mid-range this week?
Yeah, for me, it comes down to 2 players in tight end. I'm really not looking at anybody else for the most part. It's Travis Kelce or it's Kyle Pitts. Travis Kelce is 8,300. He's very expensive, but he's in a game that has the highest total, 54.5 against the Cleveland defense that has continued to struggle against the tight end. And, Kelce has a very high ceiling, a very high floor. I feel very safe, very confident that he's going to perform well. I think he had like 1 game last year where he scored under 10 points. So you can definitely count on Kelce especially in a game like this that's projected to be the highest on the slate. I think you cannot go wrong with Kelce. And then going down with Kyle Pitts going against Philly here with a 48-point game total, which is not terrible. He has a rookie tight end, but you get huge savings off of Travis Kelce. Atlanta passes the ball a ton. I think Pitts should see a decent amount of targets, especially for the price of 4,400. So for me, it really comes down to those two. Either I'm going to go up, I'm going to be able to afford Travis Kelce, or I'm going to go down and I'm going to play Kyle Pitts for Atlanta.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on the Kyle Pitts one. That's going to be one of the flag plants that I'm going to plant. Usually don't play rookie tight ends too much, but man, Kyle Pitts is different. We talked about this a little bit earlier at the wide receiver position. One thing that I'm going to really look to attack this year with the Philadelphia porous defense is the underneath route people, and I think Kyle Pitts is a prime example of that. Kind of like Kyle Pitts a little bit more. Just that price tag alone is just off $4,400. He's going to be a 6K tight end eventually midway through the season. Also looking in the mid-range, I like Logan Thomas of the Washington football team. He led the league last year in tight end routes ran. So I do like him in the mid-range. Maybe if you're a little bit thrown off by Kyle Pitts and not playing rookie tight ends, you can play Logan Thomas. I just don't think he has the highest ceiling of all the tight ends, but hey, man, you never know, man. It could be that one week that he catches that touchdown with the 70 yards and absolutely smash the slate. Also looking at Robert Tonyan at $5,400 for mini stacks with Callaway and Kamara. I feel like that is one way to get different in those New Orleans and Green Bay stacks. And Brady, any other tight ends you're really looking at?
If I was to absolutely dumpster dive, there is somebody that does stick out. Tyler Conklin from Minnesota going against the Bengals here. You got a 47-point game total where Minnesota is 3.5-point favorites. So Irv Smith is out for the season, and Conklin is extremely cheap, decent game total, and a Bengals defense who did rank 26 versus the tight end last year. So if I was to absolutely dumpster dive, I think Tyler Conklin isn't the worst option in the world.
Yeah, if I went the dumpster dive, I wouldn't mind Conklin, but I kind of want to stay inside my stacks, and I'm going to be running a lot of Kyler Murray stacks. So on the run back, I'm going to be playing Anthony Firkser. Shouts to DFX Filer in the comment section. He said most plugged in tight end. We're getting there. Anthony Firkser at $4,700 on DraftKings is just way too cheap considering the role that he's going to have this year at the tight end position. But no Jonnu Smith there anymore, who's going to be in New England. Anthony Firkser is going to be a starting tight end, and he's going to see enough volume. Hopefully, he can catch a touchdown this week, and we can win $1 million.
I like it.
We're not even going to talk about defenses. Is there any defenses that you cared about to talk about at all? Because the defense position to me is personally a position that I kind of just plug in whatever salary I have left.
Yeah, there's a good chance that I'm probably just going to punt down and like with the Falcons or with the Bengals. If I was to pay up for defense, it would be either the Broncos, Bills, or even like the Jaguars D against Houston, 2,700. But I'm with you. Defense is definitely my last priority. If I have to, I'm completely fine with paying $2K for the Falcons this week or the Bengals.
Yeah, whatever defense is going to fit my lineup, that's the one I'm going to really worry about the most. I do like the Jaguars defense a lot against the Houston Texans. Only concern would be Tyrod Taylor doesn't really throw the ball too much, but I think they can force some turnovers. Remember back in the day, I don't know if it was the beginning of last year, the year before that, people were scared to play receivers against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, and then it became one of the most picked on teams ever. Well, let's try to find a medium this year. I feel like that's a cheap price tag on them. On FanDuel, I was looking at the Broncos defense at $4,100. I feel like Daniel Jones is a quarterback that causes a lot of turnovers either through fumbling the ball or throwing the ball away some way, somehow. He's going to turn over the ball, and I definitely want parts of that. Denver defense is definitely going to be on my list. And then the only other defense I was really looking at was the I think it was the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're going to go a little bit low owned against Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is going to garner some ownership, him and Mixon. But I kind of like the Vikings defense on the road a little bit.
What price are they, the Vikings?
3,800 on FanDuel. I forget the DraftKings price tag off the top of my head.
All right.
Yeah, well, that's going to wrap up this preview of Week 1 NFL DFS for DraftKings and FanDuel. Brady, we will be joined by Detroit Beastie of the Rise or Fall on Friday at the same exact time, 6 o'clock p.m. We're going to talk about stacks, get into game theories and stuff like that. When you meet Chris is a very interesting person. his brain will definitely run you through some GPP lineups that will try to make you a lot of money. So I'm all about it.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Friday show. Talk some stacks, talk some strategy for sure. Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to the start of the season. And yeah, let's make $1 million this week. That'd be sweet. Oh, and by the way, they have the showdown tomorrow for $1 million as well, which is crazy. A showdown slate for 1 million to start it off.
Yeah, before we head on out of here, we should actually probably touch on the showdown game a little bit. What would you say is your favorite plays in the showdown game for tomorrow?
Just off the top of my head, Antonio Brown's way too cheap. I like Dak. I like Tom Brady. Basically, any receiver, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, Godwin. But yeah, especially Brown at the price. I forget what price it is, but he's just way too cheap. Doesn't make any sense.
I definitely agree with you. Antonio Brown is my favorite point per dollar play, especially with Chris Godwin, who might be a little bit hobbled. He's ready to go for the game, but he could be limited a little bit. You might see more Scotty Miller out there than usual. Also, I really like CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to try to plant my flag early this week and try to let CeeDee Lamb win me $1 million on a Thursday night.
Yeah, any idea on some value? I'm really struggling for some. I mean, Gio Bernard is down there, but other than that, I mean, OJ Howard is interesting. Not much value really sticks out. Did anything stick out for you in terms of value on the slate?
Value wise, I think if you're looking for value, you might have to game theory think about it a little bit. Like, let's say if the Buccaneers do blow out the Cowboys or something like that, you may see garbage time. And if you see garbage time, maybe a guy like Jalen Darden, who was in he was getting some snaps in the preseason. Like I said, Godwin could be a little bit banged up for this one, week one. They probably don't want to expose him too much. So instead of Godwin being on the field for 100% of the times, he maybe only be out there 60 to 70% of the times. And if they're blowing them out, I think he'll definitely come out the field as well. So I think the secondary Buccaneers wide receivers like Scotty Miller, Jalen Darden, Tywan Johnson, like those are the type of guys that at the bare minimum price that I'm really looking at.
Yeah, Jalen Darden, somebody that wins you $1 million one day. I mean, nobody's gonna have him, but yeah, that would be crazy if he did go out there at $200 and score a touchdown. That's $1 million right there.
Yeah, that I'm just naming people at the bottom that I think are going to touch the field. Jet, I feel like the Cowboys. You could look at their tight end position. The Buccaneers, not really the best at defending tight ends, but it's kind of really hard to pick a tight end on that team if you're splitting. I like the tight end position for the Cowboys, but to nail who's going to be the one that's going to be more fancy relevant between Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin feels like a game I don't want to play on a Thursday night.
Yeah, who knows? And even like the running backs for Tampa Bay feels like a game that like who knows what's going to happen there.
Yeah, man. I don't like Ronald Jones, but I'm going to play Ronald Jones more than Leonard Fournette on this slate.
Yeah, PayPal saying Browns D is the play. I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Yo, but on some shit though, bro. Big Show was explaining to me how good this Browns D of a play is going to be in week one. And I was like, dude, I'll find $200 not to play the Browns defense and spend it somewhere else on this slate. But I don't blame you, man. I think that's really it for this video. We got into some Thursday night football plays. Try to put together maybe something for that. But see you guys on Friday. Shouts to Pub Sports Radio. Brady, where can they find you at in all your content and information?
Yep, Twitter is DFS_numbers. I'm going to be doing some NFL football content on my channel. I just got out my core plays video. I'm going to be doing some showdown stuff as well for Mondays and Thursdays, and then I'll be doing a video I think on Saturday or Sunday going over my full player pool. So yeah, lots of content on my channel DFS_numbers, and yeah, going to be here every Wednesday and then every Friday talking some NFL with you and some guests on Friday as well.
Yep, no doubt. You can follow me over on Twitter at Getting Bills. Pub Sports Radio, just a little bit of housekeeping stuff. I think we have the Sunday live betting stream, Monday night live betting stream, and then the Thursday show is going to be the combination of the horse racing show and the NFL show. So that's the stuff that we have going on the channel. Make sure you check out the website as well. As football season's coming along, you'll see more articles on the page. And make sure you hit the bell notification if this is your first time watching a Pub Sports Radio live video. We go live 7 days a week, all 7 days of the week, covering all different type of sports. And I think the soccer show should be making its debut either this week or next week on Friday night following this show.
Yeah, lots going on.
See you guys. Have a nice night. We're out.
See you guys.